Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back into another video. Now, today's video is about the second AOC meeting, and well, I tried my best to actually put up a little file, a document with all the notes. And not just the notes, but also the documents with the most of the information that all of us pretty much created. So how this works, I'm going to explain this real quick before we go into anything. These are only notes, okay? These are not what exactly like to 100% we spoke on voice. These were notes that we just typed down so we could remember what we needed to talk about. Some of these things weren't even talked about, like for example, a lot of the balance, because we didn't have a lot of time, what they did was they grabbed the document with that balance and sent it over to Hi-Res, and you'll see this over time. This is why I'm also talking about balance, is that Hi-Res always has this similar answer to when it comes to balance, which is, okay, we've taken your feedback to account, we'll grab your notes, and the next time we'll take care of balance, we'll look into it, and if there's anything that, you know, we actually consider a good idea, we may actually use it, okay? So this is going to happen all over when it comes to balance. So I'm not gonna be wasting time explaining every single little balance. Instead, this document will be in the description. Again, these are all in notes, okay? So if there's anything missing here that, you know, you feel like it's not fully explained, or maybe just like there's data missing, what you can do, however, is actually go into the person's Twitter or Discord and try to talk to that AOC member specifically and ask him for it, okay? We're trying our best to try to help the devs in the community and to try to make the game better and with more players and a better experience for everyone. So I do advise to please don't just, you know, don't read this document with two stones in your hand. I know that you might not like some of us on the AOC, but we're trying our best to help, okay? So please, if it's something you don't agree, you don't need to just necessarily hate a specific member or devs about their answers, okay? Because some of the times they cannot give us the answers, unfortunately. And if you were with us, you would know why, because some of the stuff that they tell us is usually future content, or just telling us that, you know, we can't discuss this with the community right now. We need to actually have some decisions made first. So please understand that this is for the best of the community and everything, okay? And also a little thing, if you think that the information that are on these docs and these meetings are not actually good enough, let me just tell you something. The meeting is actually for like a quick minute where we get an instant response by the devs. And sometimes we're lucky, we get the exact response we want. Sometimes it's not the answer we want. And sometimes we gotta wait, or they give us an answer that you know, we can't share, unfortunately. But we're constantly on the AOC Discord, just literally pumping bugs, reports, ideas, feedback. We see future content and give our ideas about it, like whether it's good or it's bad, maybe they should change it, maybe they should be careful about this, maybe they need to talk to the community, and so on. So while you look at this document and you think, oh, you know, they didn't speak enough, oh, this guy only spoke about balance, or this guy has wrong ideas, trust me, there's a lot more that every single one of us is actually doing. So without any further ado, let's try to get into this as fast as possible. And remember, balancing, I will be skipping it most of it, okay? So let's go through it. So first of all, we got King Nick, and this first part here, as you can see, it's balance changes: Octavia, Cassie, Canessa, Furia, Bomb King, Ying, Terminus, Grok, Ray, and so on. Again, the answer was mostly that they would be taking a look into these ideas, and in the next balance, they might or might not actually, you know, take some stuff into account, depending on the numbers and also what the team thinks that might be best or not. You also have Buck here, Yagarath is on. Now, you also mentioned about aim assist bugs. About a couple of different champions that had some issues, that once you try to try to play against this person on console, obviously, and you wanted to track him with the aim assist, you just didn't have aim assist for these specific champions, for example, with Ray, while she's using her enveloped ability, and etc. And well, I can only tell you this right now, they're aware of it. okay, about the aim assist bugs, and they are constantly trying to fix everything. So just like they fixed it for Tiberius, I believe, they very much likely are going to do the exact same thing with both Yagarath in her travel form and Rey in her enveloped ability. As for the evil Moser responses, here I left this note. There were both red and yellow responses on this part, but they will be looking into the suggestions for future possible balance changes. All right, now on to Infernal. Infernal, also, little heads up, if you are watching this document, as you can see right here, there's actually some people here watching the document as of right now. If you're watching this document, first of all, on the left side right here, we have all the different AOC members and some of their themes. You can just scroll through them specifically, or you could just go directly to whatever you want. And if you press their names, you'll get access to their specific documents. All right, while I tried my best to pull out that document into this main document, so that I had somebody on Twitter today actually saying that it was a mess for them because they were on the phone and they were in work and they couldn't, just have to open every single document. Instead, I did it like this. So we have the document here, but in case you just want to go and see the original, there you go. You just need to press the names and press the link and you'll go into that document. So Infernal gave a couple of ideas: sliders, toggles, and search bars for both like friends list customizations, sliders like to control to scroll, for example, in certain areas and etc. And then she also mentioned arcade modes, removing the LTMs and bringing an arcade mode, like something that it's constantly like swapping between like old modes and event modes and etc. And it's almost like a better LTM in a way. Basically that's what it is. And then balance about Androxus, obviously, again, balancing, same thing. Like, I'm not gonna go through it or read it because you already know what I'm thinking. And also, she also mentioned about having 6 other loadout slots for the loadout pages. So there you go. As for the evil Mojo's response about the arcade mode, for example, bringing back the old modes is a pretty big arc of work. We've heard feedback from the community on how bad they want Payload to return. The way that we archive all the levels sometimes break when we want to pull them back out of use. And if we were to do this, we probably wouldn't be able to support one a week, so we would look into 1 or 2 a patch. So there's at least a possibility. All right. Basically, what they meant, they actually did mention something like this. Imagine that the payload got out in patch, let's say a patch like number 2, and we're on patch level like number 30. Right? And it got out in patch number 2, but over time, everything updates, including servers, including certain softwares and etc. Right? So that old mode is now back there with different numbers. That once you try to pull it into a new one, half of it is not going to work. Then you also have like new champions and etc. like Yagarath, Atlas, Io, Imani, dragons and Lunas and whatnot, right? So there's a lot that they need to run through every single individual character. I know that a lot of people want Payload, and I'm not gonna lie, I'd like to see it. It's a phenomenon mode. It was a bit different than Siege. It was more of like everyone has their chance, right? You got 2 rounds, everyone has their chance, and it just felt good. The problem with this is that they didn't really promise Payload. There was a bit of a mistake a while ago where somebody actually mentioned if they wanted to see Payload as a permanent mode, and everybody said yes. And then everybody just got convinced that this meant that the Payload mode was coming back. I believe that back then that question was actually by mistake. Now, whether or not we will see Payload, I don't know. If it comes back, it might be a good marketing strategy, because everybody's now like, oh, we're just not gonna get it because we keep asking and it's not coming back, and it just comes back out of nowhere. It would be crazy. But yeah, we gotta wait a bit and see. Maybe they will actually do it. As for the rest of the stuff, unfortunately, most of them were yellow or red. Again, I don't know. Maybe you want to ask Infernal. Maybe she can actually discuss some other stuff. I was there in the meeting, obviously, and I have pretty much everything, but I can't remember every single thing after like already 1 or 2 weeks after the meeting, so I don't know exactly what all the responses were. Now, as for Fishnet here, Fishnet actually did a little PowerPoint, and I left here the PowerPoint in little prints so you can see without having to open the document. So for the people who are on the phone, you'll just be able to just see the picture here. You basically spoke about bans, how people are being banned, and how some, like, there's not enough information actually when somebody gets banned. They give you these random, these random 3 examples, and these random 3 examples don't even seem like such a big deal. Although, like, there might be something stronger. It's just like they probably just grab 3 and just toss it in there, and that this people don't like this. A lot of people are getting banned just for toxicity of saying like a couple of bad words on chat, and they wanted to talk about that. Then he also mentioned about ranked map rotation. He gave a couple of examples as certain maps that the community that kind of doesn't like it. I don't know if he ended up mentioning bans for maps. Really don't know if he mentioned that. Sorry. Then he also asked about heavy walls and are they being fixed or not. And then they also asked about certain things about patch notes, like for example having a better patch notes explanation when, for example, there's changes to PDS, everything being a little bit more separated, and instead of just like going back in all like 2-3 weeks into a patch notes and having to scroll all the way down to find out that there was actually changes on PDS and whatnot. So yeah. Then he also mentioned about the gay pride avatar, that Smite has actually the flag and Paladins has like a symbol with multicolored, and he's right about this. Like, we should actually have the flag instead of just like that, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. The flag represents way more than just that. But either way, they did say that they love the idea, so very much likely it's going to happen. And then he also spoke about balancing with Makoa. So again, I'm gonna skip that. Andro as well, same thing. And Saris as well, same thing. But all of this is like it's right here on the document. Feel free to just scroll through it and see exactly what his ideas are. And he also mentioned about Spirit's domain Grok. Then this here in the front, this was actually here in the document. All right, what you see above are actually prints of his PowerPoint. This was just like, let's say that it's just like a little point reference. Like, this is just to let him know this is the points that I'm going to be talking about. All right, but this was here on the document, so I left it because these are some of the references to all of this stuff up here. So don't be confused, okay? This is basically what's up there, but just like shorter. As for Evil Mojo's response, bans, feedback on email is valid, and we'll pass it along to Radar so that they can start having a better answers and better emails when it comes to people being banned, and possibly looking into people being banned more often for such trivial things. Ranked map rotations. Goal for rotations is to move out maps that have been in the longest and move in maps that people want to play more. Could the AOC rank the siege maps most favorites at least favorites? We can take the list and use it to inform future rotation decisions. So basically the AOC was now going to try to take your feedback and give it to them so that they can know which maps you prefer in ranked. So that's actually fantastic. Heavy walls, please send us screenshots and videos. The new level designer that we have is working fantastically. I can give you a perfect example just right now. A couple of, like 1 week or so ago, before the showcase of even Lilith, I mentioned about this invisible wall that exists on Frozen Guard. And it exists on both sides, and if you try to shoot through that specific little area, it will actually block shots. And this was actually, that happened after the rework of the map, and I mentioned it to him, and in less than 2 to 3 days, he got me an answer saying, it's fixed, next patch is already there. And lo and behold, it actually happened. It's on the patch notes. You can go in there and check it out. And he's working amazingly. We're just constantly giving him some stuff about it, and it's fantastic. It works really, really well. Okay, as for the patch notes, a good call for us to make this stuff more visible. We'll continue to make an effort for the dev commentary. So like, he was also, yeah, I forgot to mention that up there, but he was also asking for more dev commentary so that people actually like that, to sort of like explain certain changes, right? So there you go. And as for the gay pride flag, they love the idea. Now on to not very complicated. This was more like I didn't went into balance again. Like I constantly talk about balance on Discord. I feel like for these meetings, I can use better points actually. You know, there are things that are a little bit more important, and I want an immediate response. So the first thing that I mentioned is about deleting the private profile mode. Now I have here a comment that I want to talk about this. I don't want you guys to be confused. I did mention one thing. I understand that certain people who still play in like community tournaments and whatnot might be upset about this. Because, you know, most people that use private profile mode are either pro players, smurfs, or hackers. So, like, we can take it away because of the other two, but somebody's going to suffer, unfortunately. And the way that this works, just so you have a general idea, other teams who are playing on these tournaments for money and whatnot might actually go and try to investigate their enemies and see their loadouts, see their strats that they're training, see their stats to see what best champions they have so they know what to ban, what to counterpick, and whatnot. And yes, there is a bit of an issue there. And I suggested, at least for people who have verification marks, to have that possibility. Some people didn't like it, I understand that, but it's possibly the only way that there is to avoid at least the hackers from using it, right? And I also mentioned to just let go of the streamer mode for now. Let's not do the streamer mode. Some people did voice their opinion about that, and they said that, you know, it would just basically benefit hackers. I did have some counter little ideas for that, you know, how to not let them abuse it. The only time they could literally abuse it would be like literally in game, but spectator, replays, the match lobby, ending scoreboard, it would all show their names and whatnot. Now the answer to this, I'm gonna skip right to the answer here for a second. I actually spoke to Fish and he gave me a new answer because he did say something, but unfortunately when they were typing the notes, it ended up becoming a bit more simple than what he said. And some people already seen this and they got upset because they thought that, you know, that they were just saying, yeah, we're not gonna do it. But no, that's not the thing. What he said was the following: we hear the community's frustrations and would like to find a solution. Private mode does serve some purposes though, so simply ripping this out wouldn't be a clean win. It likely needs to be assessed as at a per feature level, hiding names as opposed to hiding champion history, and etc. So what he's basically saying is like, yes, we might consider this, but we need to first of all see, is there more like positives than negatives? Or vice versa? Should we actually do it or whatnot? And like, what are the benefits and so on? One of the things that I did suggest to him, however, was that at least the only things that it should hide should be loadouts and possibly maybe champion stats. But the rest, like their profiles, like their ranks and whatnot, their names, no, because this would allow us at least to track down hackers. So yeah, at least he definitely heard that, and let's see what they're going to do with it. So let's go here and for the rest of the stuff that I mentioned. One of the things that I mentioned, this part right here, was subtitles. I mentioned about subtitles where, for example, I'm already skipping here to 2.2 by accident, but subtitles basically where, imagine if the enemy is using their ultimates and an enemy Tyra just says, give them hell, and basically what would show up, instead of the simple VGS that we have, it would go something like in red, name Tyra, which means enemy because it's red, and then saying just basically her ult line, and then in between parentheses saying ultimate, right? So what this would do is it would allow for people, for example, who have audio issues to basically to understand how certain things are happening, and they would also be able to, like, for example, understand an entire joke, a taunt, certain voice lines of certain characters that, like, then it was on skin. You cannot understand half of what he says. There's skins who have very similar voices as well, like for example the Bunny Saris and the Witch Ray, the Vampire Corvus, and the Gentleman Genos. So yeah, to try to avoid some of these issues. Now, the answer he gave me to that was that he loved the idea, but, you know, it might need to be a little bit more thought through, because that's not as easy as I'm just putting it out there, okay? Like, they can't just go back and to every single like voice line and just put everything there, right? It would be extremely complicated, extremely time consuming, and might have more issues than actually benefits and just make everybody confused. So they'll be looking into it. They like the idea, but they'll, you know, for now, I just cannot share just right now what the final idea would be. As for the 2.1 was actually a little thing that I already mentioned to a lot of people, is on the top right side, that little UI, red UI that you have with the enemy avatars. If an enemy uses an ultimate, a little symbol would appear underneath them. And basically, at the time, he actually didn't answer me, but I ended up speaking with him on the DMs, and he said that he, you know, it was a good idea, and he was going to put in the backlog, and if it was possible to be done, maybe they would consider and do it. So for now, that's awesome. We got some options here for people with disabilities, especially on hearing problems, and also with just like general problems. Like we had a patch with a lot of audio problems. This would have been great there, you know, just an example. Also had some questions about advertising, if they are constantly doing advertising and whatnot. I did mention that, yes, I noticed that you do the trailers and they'll show up for the new champions on the Sony YouTube channel, for example. And they said that, yes, they are constantly doing advertising on specific places that they feel like it's a target audience to try to bring in more people, and they're constantly doing it, okay? So this is actually something cool. As for the extra, I mentioned if they were going to be given a little bit more love into lore for the older champions, their answers are pretty much this. The challenge here is finding time for older champions, specifically in video highlights the new champions. So they're basically doing something like what happened here, where Corvus, Leon, and Connor are all in Lilith's trailer, so it gives a little bit more love, a little more lore to these characters, and this is what they're aiming for in the future, so that's good. I did mention an extra little thing about the GM frames and how some people, for example, who were not GM actually got the frame. People who were GM did not get the frame. They said that they actually change the way that it tracks now, and next year it should be completely fine. In fact, this year already, they already are expecting it to work 100%, but they are 100% sure that at least for next year, there will be no issues. But I did ask just a little thing, if it would be easier to basically just give the GM frames to the people who finished the split in GM, and not people who just touched GM, because I feel like that's part of the problem. I also asked if the private profile was part of the problem as well. They said no. But yeah, they said that for now they're just going to be doing this little system and they'll see. And if it doesn't work, you know, they don't know yet. Maybe they have to change it or not. I don't know. It just, there's no answer to that. I'm just saying it based on how I felt the answer was being given. As for the advertising, we are definitely advertising, can potentially reach out to marketing team to get more info. So eventually they'll be talking to me to give me more info. Now, Jay Meadows actually mentioned a bunch of different things. He did his own little PowerPoint, and this one here, for example, he was talking about how certain mounts have different, like, cameras, and it was weird, and if it was possible to, you know, just to fix all the animations. And then he also mentioned about certain things that he actually already mentioned before. So he's basically just repeating some of the older things, I think. He mentioned about some sort of a system that you could pay monthly to get a specific skin that you want, like a ticket system, and you could buy the specific skin that you want with that ticket. I believe that he has already mentioned this before, but the information is here in case you want to give it a look. He also mentioned about certain certain talents being reworked by like basically understanding which one is the worst and just change it. To be constantly putting everything more fresh and basically creating new mechanics, and so, you know, see if the community finds a new fresh, like a new favorite talent. And for example, in this type of situation here, we have two of them that are actually useless, or at least based on the community feedback. And, you know, let's just change the mechanics, like grab one of the talents, let's change one of the abilities, you know, and just create new stuff. It would actually be very interesting. You also mentioned about game modes and how payload is being heavily requested. You also mentioned about game modes as well. About like the type of PvE, right, where you could have some sort of like a PvE mode, some like minefield, lair of the dread hunters, like 5 invisible Drogos in a 5v5 survival encounter. So similar to like Alien, I think, or Predator, I think. And then he also had some questions about customs, if there was any, like, for example, updates. He also asked, for example, about something you already asked at the beginning of 2021 about a proposed button to block people, and about the Trials of the Realm, on an option to buy all the rewards, challenges, and crystals, since there are people who don't have time to complete the missions. And then the answers were the following. For the monetization, there were both reds and yellow answers here, so for now, unfortunately, I cannot share any answer here with you, so it might be related to something that may come in the future, or just something they still need to discuss with the team, and they don't want to talk about it for now to not give the wrong idea to you guys. As for the new talents, we've done several talent rewards over the past of the year, and they tend to be on a larger side of our balance changes, but we're constantly evaluating them for health and fun. As for the new game modes, may look into this in the future. Buttons, they will also look into it. As for the little block button, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't think that's a good idea, but that's just me, because I think that the only thing, I mean, actually no, I'm sorry, I'm the opposite. I actually agree with it. If the block button, the only that it does is like the block command. Instead of trying to prevent these people from showing up. What it would do is, like, if this person is being toxic to you, you could just press a button, block it, and even if it shows up in the next few games that you have, his message would just never go through. It would just, like, be completely muted to you, silent, even his voice chat and everything, right? And just, he couldn't do anything. If you're streaming, or if you're you're playing with speakers in your house and you have somebody yelling out the microphone, just saying N words and whatnot, you could just block this person and boom, you do not have to listen to him ever again. But we'll see. They said that they will look into it in the future. Custom improvements cannot share the answer for now. In the trials by being bought, it cannot be answered for now as well, unfortunately. As for Big Mac, most of it was balanced. So I'm gonna skip that ahead. But one thing that he did mention was about weapon customization. I believe that he mentioned something about in the order of being able to change, like, what type of projectiles you can shoot with both Yagarath and Ray, for example, because you cannot equip weapons with them. So what if they, if they actually did that? And they also give a good green answer here for about the balancing, the talents and whatnot. To basically just try to shift the meta, and depending on the way that the community actually loves it the most. We talked about talent swaps before. One of the issues is how to handle cases where players have unlocked or have access to default talent that would then become one they have not yet unlocked. So there's some trickiness. Yeah, so basically I think that he was actually asking for them to swap, like, the levels of certain talents, and certain people might just be like level 1, and then, like, you swap those talents and now they have access to another talent instead of the other one, and this might not even be the best one. So they want to make it as pleasing as possible for newer players, I guess. As for weapon customizations, they can share the information. Sorry. Alive. Believe that it's the last one. Yeah, Alive. Alive asked if we could add health to the mount to avoid easy and unfair dismounts. This would be about maybe some mines Nessa. I'm looking at you, Nessa. Remove auto self-damage of blasters, but keep the knockbacks for tricky jumps. Infinite credits on shooting range. Add a random button for lobby music. And add a random button to choose a champ in custom or casual. This random thing, I actually like it because it's one of the ideas that I also wanted to present, which is like a random button for, like, all the customizations, like frame and whatnot, and then you just press it, and every game that you load it into, it would just give you a random thing out of everything you own. As for the mount health, would have a lot of UI implications to add this, but they will be looking into the future about this dismounting issue, okay? That the frustrations, they are aware of it, and they want to make it less frustrating for you guys. So about, like, giving health to the horse, maybe not, but there might be other ways. So we'll see about that. As for the removing the self-damage to blasters, they might consider it, although I gotta be honest, there's a reason why that is there. We'll see. Maybe they will also look into the damage while doing that at the same time. Infinite credits in shooting range, they said that they would just look into it. I don't know if maybe it's yellow because maybe they already have this considered and maybe it's already coming soon enough. As for the random option for lobby music, unfortunately cannot share the answer for now. And for the random button for champion selections custom casuals, cannot share the answer for now. So this is basically all the information. This appendix here, I think this is like extras, because I might be wrong, you guys can correct me this, but appendix, I don't know exactly what this means. It's like an extra, right? Yeah, extra. Because, for example, here my part, how can we explore lore of old champions? And this was my extra theme. So I'm guessing this would be the same thing. But as for those extras, one of them was Drogo's avatar by Infernal. Me was about the lore about older champions, together with the newer champions when they come out with their cinematics. Jimera's was the block button, and the improving the customs, and buy all the challenges, rewards, options. Big Mac was Lex Alt marker for executable enemies, and Alive was balance. So there you go, folks. If you have any questions about anything, about any of the AOC members' suggestions, please go and talk to them. I'll be leaving the link to the Twitter in the description, so you can find their Twitters and just send them a message. Please be respectful, okay? Yes, we might actually suggest things that you don't like, but it's not by, we're not trying to make enemies or anything. We are just like looking into the community and some of the ideas, and maybe the idea that you didn't like ended up coming to us first. So feel free to give us your ideas and tell us why you don't like some of the things, because this is how it works. It's about feedback, giving ideas, saying that you don't like it and why, how would you change it, and what would you do better, okay? So yes, please, by all means, on the comments down below, tell me what you're more excited about, all of these things that I mentioned that may or may not come in the future, and what you would like me to mention on the next AOC meeting. I might pick some of the most important things. I also might have some answers for you guys about certain things you might think. For example, here's the one. I'm going to give you this one right now. SEA spectator mode and replay are now fixed. I mentioned this to devs, and they took care of it just today. So there you go. You're welcome. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry for the long video, but it had to be like this. And I'm also coming up with a different version of this, which is actually in Portuguese, so that I can help out the Portuguese and the Brazilian people to understand my documents. And since it's mostly in English, it would be extremely hard to like translate every single little thing, especially on the this here, basically the PowerPoints. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.